Also, we're recording, so let us know if you're uncomfortable with that. But yeah, this is for the people that are going to be able to make it to be able to watch. So, hi, I'm Ashley.
And I'm Shreya.
This is JavaScript. So, what exactly is it? JavaScript is a programming language commonly used to create interactive effects within web browsers. So, like CSS, it's kind of in concurrence. It works with HTML and CSS to add more backend and like extra data behind it. If you guys have used any other coding languages like maybe JavaScript or C++ or any like base language, it's similar to that because it uses a lot of backend. It adds all the functionality. So like, say you have a button, and you click buttons on your screen, like our chat and our share screen buttons in Zoom, but you don't exactly know how it does that. This is JavaScript. That's kind of what works behind the scenes. You know it does something, but you just don't know how it is done. Okay, so the basics of JavaScript is there are like a few different parts. Obviously, this is only very basics. There's a lot more that goes on behind it. But where to put your JavaScript in like with HTML and CSS, there are two different ways that you can do it. One is just in the script tag in the HTML document. So since you guys some people don't know or are not aware of what HTML is or how it looks like. HTML is a script tag or script-based language. And so it uses a lot of like these open and closing brackets with keywords in the middle of it. And these like tell you what you're gonna put inside of that bracket, what's happening on your document. So like say you have a p tag, which is just the opening closing brackets with a p inside of it, that will tell you what kind of text you're putting in, and it's just normal like plain text. So in this case, script tag is just the document or the tag that tells you that you're connecting to the script document or the JavaScript document, which will then add more JavaScript. But this is just in your HTML document. You're not creating an entirely different document. It's just the tag that you're going to put inside your HTML document. The other option is to create an entirely different JavaScript document called script.js. In REPL, if you guys are aware, there's an HTML document and then there's a CSS document. And then if you include images, then there are those documents. This will be another document below that called script.js. Okay, so the data types that we're including that in JavaScript are there are many, just as in a regular coding language. There's data types such as string, number, and Boolean, but you don't have to declare any of these types. You just have to say variable, let, or constant, which we'll go into a little bit later. But yeah, so those are the kind of main ones that we're going to be using in today's activity and tomorrow's activities. But yeah, just know that these are very important to create and like utilize. Comments, as you know in HTML and CSS, comments are very helpful for readability. But unlike HTML and CSS, there is two types of comments. There are multi-line and single-line comments. Multi-line comments are declared using the forward slash and then the asterisk, your content, and then another asterisk and a backslash, or yeah, backslash. And these are used for several lines of content. So if you're to write something and then press enter and then write something again, and then press enter, write something again, you use this multi-line comment. While the single line comment is just for one line, pretty self-explanatory. You just do two forward slashes and then your content. So we'll show examples of that a little bit later in the interactive activity as well. Okay, so variables in JavaScript, as I mentioned briefly in the previous slide with data types, there are three types of variables in JavaScript. There's let, constant, and variable. Let cannot be redeclared. It must be declared before use. It has a block scope, and it can be reassigned. So a little bit to explain these things is let was a newer version of variable. Let was created and implemented into the JavaScript language because variable had created a lot of bugs and like a lot of errors. Because when you created a variable with the var type, like inside or outside of, say, a function or a bracket, it didn't matter where it was placed. You could still call it from like inside or outside of a function. It's kind of confusing, I know. If you aren't aware of it, that's totally fine. I'll show you an example later. But yeah, let has a lot less, I guess, bugs associated with it because it's not as flexible. So you can't use it in every case. You can't use it um, before you like declare it. So for example, in this example at the bottom, let total is equal to price one plus price two. If you were to call total before you declared it, like shown here, it would not work. If you were to use variable, total is equal to price one plus price two, and then you call total before variable, you would be able to call that. So it's also structure based. I know it might be a little bit confusing, but yeah, I'll show you in a bit. Okay, constant cannot be redeclared or reassigned. It does also have block scope and it must be assigned a value when declared. So constant is like, it's pretty self-explanatory. Constant means constant. So you cannot change the variable assigned to that, the value assigned to that variable. It'll be that value forever. So constant price one is equal to 5 will always be 5. You cannot reassign another number to it. It cannot equal 6. It cannot equal 7. It has to be 5. Same thing for price 2. Also has to be 6. You can't change that number at all. And also you can tell here, like I mentioned before, there are no data types. So there's no str to negate string. There is no int for integer, etc. It's just the constant or the variable type, the variable name, the equal sign, and then the value. There is no like data type, any sort of that, nothing, which is very convenient for JavaScript because if you were to put it in, obviously it would be a lot more specific and a lot more detailed. But yeah, it could be anything. Your constant variable, your price one variable could be anything. And then for variable, can be redeclared, can be a variable, and it can use variable before it's declared. So like I said, you could call this variable before you declare it. Like instead of let total, variable total, and then you call total before it's declared, you would be able to call it. Yeah, I try to word it as best I could. If it's confusing, I'll show you. Third time I said it. Okay. So operators in JavaScript. An operator is a specific symbol used to perform operations on values and variables. You use this every day in math. It's like multiplication, addition, etc. And there are more special ones in coding, including like if, else, or, and etc. Example of that is shown here. Let a is equal to 3. So, example a, let a is equal to 3, and let x is equal to 100 plus 50 multiplied by a. Also, I forgot to mention, you can call variables in another variable's value. So if you're not aware of the syntax or like the vocabulary that I'm using, let is an example of variable. A is the variable name. So you're going to call that variable with a. The equal sign is your signing operator. And 3 is the value that you're assigning to a. So when you call a, you're going to get 3. When you call x, you're going to get 100 plus 50 multiplied by a, which in this case is 3. Yeah, so that's an example of operators. 100 plus 50, you're going to get 150 multiplied by 3. It's 150 times 3, 450. So that's what you're going to get when you call x, is 450, because you're performing operations in your variable's value. Yeah. Okay, next. All right, so we have types of operators in JavaScript. There's arithmetic, assigning, comparison, logical, conditional, and type. Arithmetic is used to perform arithmetic on numbers, as we just saw in the previous example. It includes addition, subtraction, multiplication, the division, the double asterisk signs. Wait, I'm actually not aware.
The double asterisk sign is actually like exponentiation. So if you do like 2 asterisk asterisk 3, that's gonna be 2 to the third power, which is 8. That's all.
Okay. I'm learning too. No, okay. I just don't have as much experience with JavaScript. All right. And then the percentage sign is gonna be your oh my gosh, I forgot what it's called.
It's modulus.
Modulus. That's what it's called. Oh yeah, okay. No, but modulus, you're going to get the remainder. So it's the opposite of division, where instead of doing 10 divided by 5 is 2, you're gonna get 10 modulus 5 is 0, because there's no remainder for 10 divided by 5. For example, like 6 divided by 3 would be 2. 6 divided modulus 3 would be 0. Which one has a what's an example of one that would have a 15 divided by, what's like 15 divided by 8? Okay, 15 divided by 8 would be 1.875. So in this case, 15 modulus 8 would be 800 or 875. Okay, I need to find a good example of this. What's a good example of modulus? Okay, while she searches it out, we're gonna do plus plus and minus minus, which is just incrementing. So if you were to do 5 plus plus, you get 6. If you were to do 5 minus minus, you get 4. That's an example of incrementing, or plus plus and minus minus. Okay, so for assignment operators adds a value to a variable. So like I mentioned before in the example with let and constant, to assign a variable or a value to your variable, you're going to use the equal sign. Plus equals is a shorthand for like addition. So to add and assign a value to a variable, you're going to use the plus equals. So like say 5 plus equals 10 would be 15. 10 plus equals 20 would be 30. So you're assigning this 30 to a variable. Yeah, same thing with minus equals. You're just gonna decrease. So 5 minus equals 3 is 2, and 10 minus equals 7 would be 3. So multiply equals same thing, divide equals same thing, modulus equals same thing, and then that's the exponent equal same thing. Comparison operators are used in logical statements to figure out the relationship between variables or values. I don't know all of these, but the equals would be you're comparing two values, you're checking to see if they equal each other, two values or variables. So if you were to say 5 equals 5, that would be true because 5 does equal 5. If you were to do 4 equals 5, that'd be false because 4 does not equal 5. The triple equal sign.
The triple equal sign just basically means like they're equal value and they're also equal data type. So let's say you have 5 and like a string of 5, they're not equals to each other.
I see. So in this case, 5 of string type and the 5 of int type would be true if it was equal, like 2 equal signs, but false if it was equal.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you saw what I just did, I just asked a question because I wasn't sure. If you guys aren't sure about anything, please feel free to ask questions. Just as I just did. It's very casual, so yeah. feel free if you're confused, if you're just wondering about something, if you want to add on, please unmute and tell us. Not equals is the same thing as equals equals, except just opposite. So like, does 5 not equals 4? That's true. 5 not equals 5, that would be false. So that's not equals, and then not equals equals be the same thing as equals equals equals, just opposite. So it has the same value and the same variable type or value type. Greater than equal to, or greater than equal to, less than equal to, greater than and less than are same thing as in normal everyday use. The variable or the value is higher than the other variable or value that it's being compared to. For greater than, for less than, same thing, etc., etc. For logical operators, we're used to figure out the logic between variables or values, and the and operator, the two I don't know, the upward slashes, I don't know what those are called, just lines, I guess. Those are or operator. That's for the or operator. So you're comparing two variables as well, or I think no, okay, they're for if statements, right? I'm pretty sure they're just for if statements.
Yeah, these logical operators are for if statements and stuff.
Okay, it's only for if statement. I don't know about for.
It could be used for while loops, I think.
Okay, could be used for. So these are for conditionals. Okay, yeah. So if your variable is like, if the statement exists, then you're gonna do something. So if, say, 5 is equal to 4, and this is the logical operator, and 4 is equal to 4, then you're gonna do something. Since not both of them aren't true, you're not gonna do whatever is inside the brackets. Okay, it's hard for me to explain using words, but I'll explain it in the interactive activity. Same thing with or and not, which is the exclamation mark. Conditional operators is a fast-hand version of if statements. So you don't really need to know this one either, but the question mark is kind of just showing examples of yeah, an if statement. I don't really want to describe this using words because I would butcher it so bad, but yeah, we can show you an example of that later too, if you want to. Type operators is used to check the data type. So like type of, instance of. I don't have an example of that either, and it's hard to say, but yeah, that's it for operators.
And now we have conditionals, which is if-else statements. And so basically these are used to test situational options and respond accordingly to each of those options. So basically use if to specify a block of code to be executed. And if that specified condition is true, then it will be executed. Like take this example right here. Let user age equal 15. And then we have our if statement. If user age is less than 18, then console log the user is a child. This here, user age is less than 18, is our condition. And this statement right here between the curly brackets is the condition, the code to be executed. And then we also have the else statement, which is basically what this second statement is right here. Here it says if, but instead of all this, we can just write else. And else is basically used to specify a block of code if this condition here is false, right? And then we can also use an else if statement to make more complex if statements, like if you have more conditions to test for. Like let's say in this example over here, you also wanted to test if someone's like older than 65, then you can write else if user age is greater than or equal to 18, then console log the user is an adult. And then you can have another else if, or just an else, you can have another else if statement to say user age is greater than 65, to say that console log user is like probably like a retired person, right? But basically, yeah, that's it.
Okay, so for loops, there is two types of loops. There is a while and for loop. The example to the right is only a while loop. For loop will show a little bit later. But for loops and while loops are used to repeat something. It could literally be anything. You could repeat a statement, you could repeat a function, you could repeat um, anything, just a print statement, etc. Basically, these are example to the right is you're gonna create a variable, declare it, which is in this case number. We're gonna equal that to 0, so that's 0. And then while this number is less than 10, we're going to print hello using the console.log. And then we're going to increment this number by 1. So do you guys remember another way to increment this this number by 1 plus? This is just a question to you guys, just to see if you guys remember or understood what I was talking about when I was going over the conditionals or the operators.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay, so do you guys know another way to increment this number by 1? So instead of doing the number is equal to number plus 1 line, there's another way that you could write this statement to increment by 1.
Is it else?
No, not the if else.
What operator can you use instead of the ones we used here?
Yeah. It's fine if you don't know, because we didn't really explain or like show you guys an example of it. I just said it. But if you go back to the operators, I can show them. Okay, so the operator that we use is an assignment operator, because when we're using an equal statement, right? In that previous line of code, you guys saw that there was an equal statement. We're assigning number plus 1 to number. So instead of number plus 1, we can write plus is equal to, or plus plus. Either of those are viable because plus plus increments by 1. So you add 1 onto whatever your initial variable was. So like in this case, go back. Number is a variable that we want to increment by 1. So we want to increase it by 1 every time we're checking that number is less than 10. So if we check that it's less than 10, which in this case it is 0, we're going to want it to increase number by 1. So number is equal to number plus 1, could also equal number plus plus, or number plus equal 1. Yeah. I think also, if you guys don't understand the reason why we're doing this, or is we're incrementing this function by 1 because if we weren't going to increment it, if we were going to keep it the same number, like numbers equal to 0, it would never exit this loop. It would never come out of this while loop, because if it's less than 10, which will always be if we don't change the number, then it will just continue to print this hello statement over and over again.
And we want to avoid that because that could cause our program to like crash or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's really just, it's not a good way to create your loops.
Definitely.
And so now we have functions. And in JavaScript, functions are like really, really important because you can do like a lot of things with functions. That sort of helps you like with changing like attributes in your HTML document, which we'll get to later. So basically a function is a block of code designed to perform a particular task and is executed when something invokes it or calls it. They're also created for, oops, my bad, sorry. They're also created for readability and helps keep our code organized and makes our code document easier to debug and also adds structure. Um, and so it's sort of like a reusable set of statements, right? And so you can pass one or more values into it, and it's going to return a value um, at the end of its execution. And in order to use a function, you have to define it somewhere, like we have in this example over here. And then we also have to call it, which is right here. And so function parameters are listed inside the parentheses, which is in this case is going to be num1 and is going to be num1 and num2. Add is the name of our function, and then function arguments are like the values received by the function when it's called. So right here where the function is called, a and b are our arguments, right? And then these two parameters we have, they're local variables, meaning their scope is just this function block and every time it's called. And then at the end of each function, make sure to have like a return statement because that indicates that that's the last statement to be executed in your function. Anything to add, Ashley?
No.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, the syntax of a function is that you have you have to say the function keyword, name of your function, and the parentheses with your parameters inside, and then you have curly braces to put your code in, and then you don't put a semicolon at the end. And now we have HTML DOM, and so HTML DOM, like DOM stands for document object model, and it's used to access or change the elements of an HTML document in JavaScript. Basically, in the DOM, all HTML elements are defined as objects. So when we refer to objects, it just means an HTML element in this case only. And so a method is basically an action you can do, like adding or deleting an HTML element. And a property is just a value you can use to like set or get, like changing the content of an HTML element. And so the HTML DOM document object is the owner of all other objects in your web page. And if you want to access any element in an HTML page, you should always start with accessing the document object. Basically, for most of them, you have to add a document at the front or whatever appropriate term. And these are some example methods that we used. Like the first one is document dot get element by ID, and parentheses you have the ID. It just finds your element by the ID of the element, which you would add in the HTML document. And then you can do it by tag name and by class name, which is basically the same syntax, almost the same syntax as get element by ID, but instead tag name or class name, depending on which one. And then you have document.remove child, which is just to remove an HTML element, and then append child, which is to add one. And then we have element.set attribute with the attribute that you want to change and the value you want to change it to. Over here, element is you would change what you would write. Element over here is just a placeholder. So like let's say you want to change like let's say let's say you want to change an HTML element, you'd write the name of that element over here, and you'd write a dot set attribute, and then in the parentheses you choose the attribute. Like let's say you want to do a source attribute. Oh, sorry. You put src comma, and then you put the new source that you'd want to do it after the comma. And then we have properties that we can use, like element.innerHTML. This is just going to change the content of an element. We actually have that in this example. Oh, we don't have that in this example. This example does have get element by ID. And the ID is text, and it just changes the content of that element. Anyway, our another property is element.attribute. This is just changing the attribute of an HTML element. And then we can also change the style of an HTML element, where you have the element name, style, the name of the property that you want to add, and then assignment operator, and then the name of the new style. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And now we have an example.
Okay, before we hit the example though, I'm gonna actually no, let's hit the example first.
Okay. My bad, sorry. Ashley, do you want to do the example?
Sure.
Okay. I'll just share this. Should I stop share?
Yeah, wait, share. I'm gonna share this one because I made a little bit of changes to it, but
Okay, no worries.
okay, so here is the example. Go ahead and just yeah, I don't know if I don't click on that one. I'm going to really quickly publish this. Okay, this one. Try that one. Click the second one and fork it, just so that you guys can edit on your own even after this workshop. All right. Okay, so kind of what's going on here is jQuery is something that we use in, let's see. So jQuery is a JavaScript library that helps make things so much easier. So if you were to not use jQuery, you could use get element by ID or DOM elements, as Shreya just explained. But jQuery makes it so much easier for me to like call functions and add variables and etc. So I always like to use jQuery. But I'm going to show this example using both jQuery and without it, just so you guys can see the difference and choose depending upon what your preference is, what you guys want to use. So without jQuery, we're going to create a wait. All right, I'm going to hit the HTML first. So as we already know, this is the head. We've connected our script, our JavaScript, as well as initiated our source. So this is what we need if we were to use jQuery, but since we're not going to use it right now, just delete that for now. Comment it out. But as you described near the beginning of the presentation, when you're using JavaScript, you can either create an entirely new document or you can just write it in the HTML document itself. So here is an example of what it would look like if you were to just do your JavaScript in the HTML document. You'd create a script tag and then you'd write your function and your all your data that you're going to change within this script function or the script tag. But personally, I don't like to use this script tag because it doesn't do that much for readability. I mean, it uses less like storage because you're not creating as many documents, but I don't like how unorganized it looks and how, you know, inconsistent and kind of crowded it makes this HTML document feel. So I tend to just not do this, and I tend to just connect a JavaScript document to it. So in this document, we're going to create 3 functions. Each of these, wait, this is with jQuery, sorry. This is without. So without jQuery, we're going to create 2 functions. Each of these functions are going to change the image that we found here. I'm going to show you how this works. So you press the on button and it changes the shoot. Is not working. Okay, this one is working. Okay, so it turns on, or changes the image to turn on the light and turn it off. Obviously, you're not, specifically turning on a light, you're just changing the image to make it look like it's turning on, but it still follows the same functionality. So what this does is we've associated a ID with the on button and an ID with the off button. So as you click this button, you're changing the image, which we're performing in this JavaScript. This is not good. Sorry, I'm not prepared, but okay, so yeah. So you're setting an ID, you're creating an on-click function, and you're creating an on-click variable, and you're associating the turn on function with this on-click. So as you click this on button, it changes. It associates to this function that we've called here. An example, or I mean, kind of what we're doing in this function turn on is we're calling this document.getElement by ID my image. So this getElement by ID is a function that's associated already in the JavaScript language, and this will takes the attribute my image, takes the parameter my image, which is the ID that we've associated with the image, and it's going to set this image to this PNG. It's going to change the source, which we're right off right here, and it's going to set it to on. Now, if you saw me, just like it's already on, right? So we're already on the light on PNG. If I were to click this again, it would do nothing because it's already on this PNG. So if you click this, it wouldn't change it. It's already on here. If we click off, it would change it. So yeah, this is kind of an example of what you can create with JavaScript, but JavaScript does a lot more than just change images. You can change text, you can hide text, you can add what I did in mine. Here, let me show you. So this is my personal website. Kind of, if you were there last week, we started a little bit of your own personal website, but it's definitely a very useful tool in the future when you want to either have your own personal profile, you want to share it with someone, you want to tell them kind of what you're doing, and tell them a bit about yourself. So this right here, the flashing in and out as it disappears and reappears is JavaScript. So here's kind of my JavaScript. It's pretty easy. You're just gonna create this array, and then you're going to and then you're going to kind of set the time interval. So as it changes, like over 3 seconds, it'll change, etc. like that. But this is kind of just an example of what JavaScript can do. I created a timer, so it uses real world time and it counts down for like 30 minutes, etc. for a Pomodoro timer. That's how you say it. But yeah, there are several different things that you can do with JavaScript. This is just the baseline of it. Yeah. Do you guys get that? Do you guys do you want to look at it more? Or do you want to go straight into the interactive activity?
So should we upload two images, like one dim lit and another one which is like lit brightly?
Yeah, so the images are already uploaded for you. If you fork the one that I sent, the second one, um, it should give you the images already. All you're doing is just calling the image from the JavaScript file. So you're just calling this image using the ID associated with it. Right here, because this ID is associated with this image. Do you get that? Did I answer your question or?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah, so I'm just gonna go introduce a little bit of the interactive activity. This will explain a lot
One
of
more
what.
thing right
Oh,
before.
yeah.
So about onClick, onClick is actually like an HTML event attribute. Um, so it's like it's does what it says, like when it's clicked, then it will do something. That's like all it is, just an event attribute in HTML. And that's how we can use it to access the function that we wrote in our JavaScript page. That's all.
Okay. Oh wait, I didn't even hit the without jQuery. Or with jQuery. I forgot. But I'll just go over a little bit. So with jQuery, you don't actually need this attribute. You can just create your button and your oh no, that's not good. Okay. You don't need this turn off or the on click attribute. All you need is to create your IDs, your images, and then set your source, and then you could do everything else in JavaScript. You're gonna definitely do more JavaScript if you use jQuery, but I feel like it's a lot more easier to understand. Instead of memorizing this get element by AD attribute, you can just do dot on. So dot on, it takes the button and then it associates this turn on function with it on the click. So this changes depending on what you want to do. Like for our image, it changes the source of the image. For text, it just yeah. Well, for text it doesn't. You just do dot text if you were to change the text. But for buttons, yeah, it's dot on. So for jQuery, you'd create 3 functions associated with each of the IDs on, off, and my image. Like here, on, off, and my image. And you'd set the button on to turn on to set the image to this turn on PNG. Call it because you're calling this function right here that will set this image to light on. Same thing for turn off, it'll set this image to light off. Yeah, it's do you guys understand that, or is there any confusion between how this works?
No. No.
Okay, beautiful. All right. This is a little bit of interactive activity. There's gonna be just some questions on it. It's not gonna be like a whole other like program. It'll just be like JavaScript. And yeah. So just to kind of explain the different types of comments, this is a single line comment, this is a multi-line comment, using these 2 different kind of attributes and declarations. This is our printing statement to the console. This is how you'd console.log. So a console is a print and text entry device for system administration messages. You have one on your computer as well. If you just search up console, I think in your search bar or command prompt. But yeah, so every sort of program has a console, and it's used for debugging as well as just checking, if your program is working. So if you were to use like a function to check if your function is working, you'd put a print statement inside using console.log. So this also tells us, gives an example of variable versus let, and its differences. So if you were to call variable a variable before it was declared versus a let variable before it's declared, you wouldn't be able to print the let variable, but in comparison, you would be able to print a variable, a var variable. Oh my god, it's like so confusing, but yeah, so you wouldn't be able to print this. I mean, you wouldn't be able to print this as it sends an error, but this would just print undefined because you haven't actually defined this variable yet. You're just calling it before it's officially declared. So yeah, that's kind of an update after like they decided to create this let variable. And obviously constant is constant, so if you're trying to change is equal to just say engineer. Let's delete this. Actually, let's just comment this out. So this assignment to a constant variable, it would send another error. You cannot reassign a constant variable to another value. It has to be lawyer forever. So yeah, it's an example of constant variable. These are, like I mentioned, how to print each variable. It doesn't change. Oh yes, this is for a little bit later. But yeah, so these three will always print. That doesn't change between the three variables. So just a question, what kind of data is stored in the variable example 1? This is a question for you guys. So what kind of data is stored in the variable? So this variable, what is stored in this variable? If no one knows the answer, that's fine.
You guys can also reply in the chat if you don't want to unmute.
Okay, that's fine. So what's stored in this variable is a Boolean. So there you go, Boolean, because 4 greater than 5 is either true or false. And true or false are both Boolean type of data. So if you were to print this, example 1, it would print false. Let's delete this now. It would print false because 4 is not greater than 5. 4 is less than 5. So this would be false. If you were to change this to 4 is less than 5, and run that, it'd be true because 4 is less than 5. Another kind of example would be this one. Okay, what is this? What data is stored in this operator? Or what's your data is stored in this variable? Like what kind of, what is this? Is it a string? Is it a number? Is it a Boolean?
It's a number.
It's a number, perfect. So this is considered an integer, or a number. So integers are okay,
Actually, in JavaScript, there's just one type of number for
it's just number.
data type. Yeah, it's just number. You can have decimals, no decimals, or scientific notation if you guys know what that is.
Got it. Okay, so if you're to use like Java or C Sharp, it would be an int. In this case, a 5.0 would be a double, but that's not related to anything JavaScript. Okay, we're almost out of time. Okay, oh my god. But yeah, so this is an example of a number, and then what is this? Oh, I mean it's right here, but what kind of data is stored in this? What is this one?
It's a name.
To name, right? So do you know what kind of data It is though, like
Is it a string?
yes, it's a string. Perfect. So these are considered strings when they're in brackets, and they're it's like a word. It's like an English word. Those are considered strings. Okay,
And
so oh,
and also when you're writing strings, you can use double quotes or single quotes, but I'd say use single quotes so you don't have like problems with apostrophes and all that.
okay. This is another difference between let and variable. So if you're to set foo to the variable foo to foo and bar is equal to bar, and you're gonna print both of these, obviously you get foo and bar. And then if you were to print moo and baz inside brackets, you'd obviously get the moo and baz. But if you were to print this moo and baz outside of the brackets, you'd only be able to print the moo because the baz is a let variable and its scope, it's which is like where it reaches, where you can be able to like use it, is inside these brackets. So you can only use this variable baz within these brackets because it's declared inside and it can only, scope, it can only be seen inside of these brackets. You cannot use it outside of these brackets. You can't use it up here, you can't use it down here. It's not available.
And also the comma used in the console log, that automatically adds a space between the values of each variable. So you don't have to worry about like extra spacing or too little spacing.
Like right here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Because like there's no space in either of these. It doesn't show, but it's just like that. Okay. Um So this is, oh, it's already four, but these are kind of other examples. So this is a conditional. If veggies is greater than or equal to 5 and veggie eaten is less than 10, then you're gonna print this, greater than 9, less than or equal to, or greater than or equals to 1 and less than 5, etc. So that's kind of like an if else statement. If this happens, then you're gonna perform this print statement, and if else or else if, then you're gonna print this, etc. 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 Here is, I'm gonna give you guys one more thing. Okay. Let me find this. Oh, that's so wrong. Holy crap. Sorry guys for going over. I'm gonna quickly do this. What is it? Hey guys, I lost it. Okay, so here's kind of an activity that you guys can do. So I want you guys to change this and write something about yourselves. So instead of like this, give me 1 second. Okay, push this. Okay, since we have no time, and I totally went overboard, I'm so sorry. I'm going to just share this with you guys for you guys to do like after this workshop, and then we'll check in tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you guys for coming. Check out the REPL that I just shared, and then look at it. Try and do the activity, and if not, that's fine. Lorraine will get it tomorrow.
But we'll see you guys tomorrow. So
Yes. So you're free to go as soon as you fork that REPL.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
bye.